Everyone said small birds forget, that the wild wipe's memory's clean, that creatures as tiny as swiftlets don't hold on to anything for long. But that morning on the Oregon coast, when a trembling cry rose through the wind and a dying swiftlet dragged itself toward a human, everyone learned that even the smallest hearts can love with a devotion deeper than the ocean below. Linda Miller, 62, had lived on those cliffs most of her life. She'd watched storms blow in from the Pacific like marching armies, watched bald eagles soar, watched whales breach and disappear into the blue. But nothing prepared her for the sound she heard at dawn. So faint, so desperate, it sliced through the roar of the waves. She raised her binoculars and froze. On the narrow limestone ledge halfway down the cliff lay a tiny swiftlet nest, no bigger than her palm. Inside were 3 delicate, perfect eggs. But circling above were 4 black shapes. Crows, sharp-eyed, intelligent, ruthless. Linda's breath tightened. "Not today," she whispered. The crows moved first, hopping closer with cruel confidence. One crow tapped its beak against the rock like it was knocking on the door of death. Another spread its wings, blotting out the morning sun. A third tilted its head, calculating angles like a thief who knew exactly what he was doing. The swiftlet, all 2 ounces of feather and courage, threw its body over the eggs, wings shaking, chirping frantically in a voice too small for the danger it faced. The crows laughed, or something like it. One crow lunged. Linda didn't think, she acted. She snatched her old pellet rifle from the porch, the same one she used to scare raccoons out of her trash. She took aim at the sky. Pop! The shot cracked sharply. The crows exploded upward, wings thrashing. One crow screeched, "You gotta be kidding me!" Another complained loudly, at least it sounded like complaining. Linda fired again. Pop. "Not today," she said with the authority of someone who'd fought storms and time and loneliness all at once. The cliff fell silent. The swiftlet stared down at her, not with fear, with something else, raw, trembling gratitude. For the next 3 days, Linda returned at sunrise and sunset. She stood guard like an old lighthouse keeper, watching for shadows in the sky. She spoke to the little birds softly, the same tone she used with her grandchildren. "Hang in there, sweetheart. You're stronger than you look." But the crows weren't gone. They perched on distant branches, their black eyes burning with insult. Crows remember, and crows hold grudges. On the 4th evening, the fog rolled in, thick, white, disorienting. The wind stopped, the ocean quieted, and that was when Linda heard it. The crows returned, wings slicing the still air. 4 shadows dropped like daggers. The swiftlet panicked, beating its wings desperately, trying to shield its nest. Linda stumbled toward the edge, heart pounding, rifle in hand, but the fog erased everything. Sound bounced wrong, shapes moved like ghosts. She fired once, pop, twice, pop, but she couldn't see, couldn't aim, couldn't stop what was coming. A violent thud echoed. A cry, sharp, fragile, heartbreaking, split the fog. When the mist finally thinned, Linda saw the truth. The nest was destroyed. The eggs shattered like tiny fallen stars.
The bird's
And
nest.
the swiftlet, a feathered scrap of life, dragged itself toward the ledge as if searching for what it had lost. "Oh God, no," Linda whispered, falling to her knees. She reached out with shaking hands. The swiftlet pressed its tiny head against her finger, not in fear, not even in hope, but in goodbye. It gave one final fragile chirp, so soft Linda wasn't sure she'd truly heard it. Then its body relaxed, wings settling like a closing book. The little heart stopped. Linda lifted it gently, tears blurring the cliff until sea and sky blended into one. The world insisted small birds forget, but Linda knew better. She had witnessed a mother fight giants. She had watched love battle impossible odds. She had held a tiny life that wanted nothing more than to protect its family until its last breath. Years passed, 12 of them. Linda aged. Her hands shook more, her hair silvered, but she never forgot that swiftlet or the echo of that final cry. In 23, at age 74, she received an invitation to speak at a coastal wildlife symposium, held near those very cliffs. Part of her didn't want to go. Another part whispered, "It's time." On the second morning of the symposium, the group paused at a familiar cliff overlooking the roaring Pacific. Linda stepped forward, her breath catching in her throat. On the same ledge, weathered by time, softened by moss, rested a new swiftlet nest, and perched beside it was a swiftlet with the same mottled pattern on its wings. the same fearless sparkle in its eyes. A descendant, a living memory carried across generations. The little bird hopped once, twice, then chirped a soft, trembling note, the same note Linda had heard all those years ago. She pressed a hand to her mouth, tears rising. "I know you," she whispered. The bird fluttered its wings gently, not afraid, not cautious, but grateful, as if carrying a message left by its ancestor. "We remember. We always remember. Thank you for trying." Linda smiled through her tears. Some losses never leave you. Some acts of love echo through bloodlines and feathers and time. And some connections, no matter how small the creatures involved, are too powerful for the wild to erase. Under the sweeping Oregon sky, with waves crashing below and 1,000 birds migrating overhead, Linda finally felt something she had been denied for 12 long years. Peace. Not because the tragedy vanished, but because love had found a way to survive. And in the hush between waves, Linda swore she heard it again. Soft, familiar, carried in the wind. The Swiftlet's voice, whispering across. "Time, thank you, we remember." If this story touched you, if it reminded you that even the smallest lives carry the biggest courage, then please take a moment to support the channel. Hit like to help more people see stories that matter. Subscribe if you believe kindness still has a place in this world. And share this video with someone who needs a reminder that compassion, no matter how small, can echo for generations. Your support keeps these stories alive, and together, we make sure no small voice is ever forgotten.